Hello, I'm David Bell from the Eastern Fraud Forum, and I'm joined with my colleague Francis West, also one of the directors of the Eastern Fraud Forum. But today we are here, we're going to be talking about fraud and cyber and how to protect yourself in the digital world, because a lot of the stuff that happens in that digital world does lead on to fraudulent transactions. So, Francis, hello and welcome, and thank you for joining me here in the virtual studio today.
Yeah, hi, David. It's always a pleasure to do these sessions with you, because whenever people listen to this, they hear so many new ways of preventing themselves of getting hacked or scammed and ultimately suffering a lot of money, through fraudulent transactions.
Yeah. And it is money, isn't it, Francis? When people do get hacked, money is part of it, because these fraudsters, these criminalists basically end up stealing our details. They then start to change credit limits, get access to our bank accounts. But it's not just the money, and that is painful. But the other part of it is that they steal your identity, and it can go on for years where they are being you anywhere and everywhere. And all of a sudden, it's the turmoil and the upset it causes as well.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because the identity side, I think one just to rewind a little bit there. The other thing which we should also think about is the reputational damage. Whether it's just a small one-man band business or £1 million or £10 million business, the fallout that affects so many people is phenomenal. Coming back to the identity, and again, if somebody steals, hopefully we'll cover it in a minute, when somebody steals your phone, the information that they can get off your phone or from your sent items tells them everything about you as a person. And when they get into your WhatsApp account, and they start talking to your friends or pretend that they're you, it's endless. And that's why, I love doing these sessions, because if we can help people be better aware and put better, like an onion, put layers around them, the better protected they will be. All I ask, and here's my first ask for the day, is that whatever information you learn today on these sessions, please share it with 10 other people. And then ask those 10 people to share it with 10 other people. And this is how we're going to help a lot more people today.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, Francis, these devices, our mobiles, whether you're an Apple, an Android, or maybe even Nokia, you're pretty safe, actually, if you've got a Nokia, or safer. But they are everything in our pocket. And when we lose them, it can cause all sorts of challenges. It can cause lots of upsets. And absolutely, that reputation can change immediately. Certainly if you're running your own business and you've got customers and clients, suppliers, the whole GDPR thing comes into play because you've got contacts on there. But this has happened very recently with one of your clients, or now a client.
Tell us what client now. You won't believe this. I'll rewind quickly for you. So last Wednesday evening, I was invited to do a talk in Harrow in front of a business community. There were 60 people in the room, and about 500 people logged in live. And the co-sponsors is a insurance firm who also obviously do a lot of cyber insurance. And Monday morning, Amish, who's the CEO of the insurance firm, he phones me up. He says, Francis, you won't believe this, but one of my key guys in the office was done on Saturday evening. I said, what do you mean? He said, then he said, please, can you phone, his name is Himesh. And I said, let me phone him. So I phoned Himesh, and this poor guy was in such a state. So what happened on Saturday evening was he was sitting, he was just on his way home, and all of a sudden these three guys approached him and just said, you know what, please, I need to phone my mom. I've lost my phone. So, he's obviously had a few to drink. So he hands over the phone, and to give you a short version, the two guys just all of a sudden starts walking one way, and the one guy with the phone starts running. So he runs after these people. And of course, remember, at this point, the phone is unlocked.
Because he's been using it. He was standing there using the phone.
He was just standing there using it. He's waiting for the for the next train. I think it happened at Piccadilly Circus. It was about 10:30 at night. And I'm missing some of the details just to keep the story short. Anyway, so the guys went off, they lost him. So because I changed after them, but off they went on the train. They even had the transport police involved. They sadly couldn't do much, but they've taken all the details. The next morning, this is now Sunday morning, he then starts finding out from some of his friends where his friends are getting messages from him to say, listen, I've just had a message request from you to say you need money. Are you okay? Because they phoned him on another number, on his brother's number, who lives with him in the same house. And then he explained, no, listen, last night I was basically robbed. They took my phone off me. But then it gets a lot better. I tell you, within minutes of them stealing their phone, they went into his Apple ID and they changed the recovery code and the recovery email address. So now imagine this, now he's locked down. But the one thing he did first thing on Sunday morning was he phoned EE, because he was EE, and EE said, "Yeah, no, definitely, we'll stop your phone, and we'll brick your phone, and we'll also brick your SIM." Now they never turned off his phone, so they never disabled the phone. So these guys carried on. They were starting to use his phone to physically phone his mom. So the poor guy, and then his dad got involved. But, then imagine a few hours go by and the poor guy's just panicking and he's trying to speak to EE, and EE goes, no, well, it's all done. Meantime, it wasn't done. And then, of course, then we got a hold of him and we went through loads of different things with him on Monday morning on how to protect himself. But in the end, we found this tiny loophole. And the tiny loophole for him to get his account back, because we tried so many different methods, and Apple were not. I'm telling you, Apple was not interested to get his account back. Right? It's just, you can't make this stuff up. They said, well, if the things have been changed, your recovery code's tough. Then we can't help you. You need to create a new Apple ID. But that means he would have lost his photos, his contacts, everything. Now, the next thing that happened was, so we found out that he had an old phone number as part of his recovery codes for his Apple ID. And thank God, why not? We don't know, but these scammers or hackers that took his stuff, or thieves, you can call them, never changed that old phone number. So we told him, listen, how about you go and get a SIM from Vodafone, a temporary one, and let's see if we can activate that number, which we did. And then Monday afternoon, we managed to get him back into his Apple ID and then lock out the hackers. But the trauma this poor boy has gone through. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is this. He admitted this to me. What he did was on your Apple phone, you can have notes. Under the notes, he had a folder called passwords.
Yeah.
And he had all these passwords written in there. And I'm saying, now can you see why you made it so easy for the hackers? I said, if you had a password manager on your iPhone, they wouldn't have been able to get in there because they would have needed, Face ID, even though they've run off with your phone. So anyway, he's going to come on our LinkedIn live session, which I'll talk about next Thursday, to tell his story in a lot of detail. But David, this is the second case I'm dealing with only in the last 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and I don't think this is uncommon. And you talk about people storing a little note in there in the Notes app, passwords. I know lots of people that do that. They might store it in a little bit more technical. They might store it in a spreadsheet rather than just in a native app, such as a Notes app. But the problem is here that there's a couple of things, isn't there? First, he had his phone. It was unlocked. He was using his phone while standing there, like we all do. Now, he handed that phone over, but quite often people will run past, grab the phone out of your hand and run. So it's still unlocked. Now, when that's unlocked, they've got access to pretty much everything. Not everything, but pretty much everything. So they can get into your email. They can get into your text messages. They can get into your photos. And of course, if you've got family and children, that might be a worrying and disturbing piece as well, that they can access all of that data. There's so much content on there. Your banking. And in fairness, lots of banking will then have, obviously, they will need, some sort of facial recognition or thumbprint, fingerprint to open that in most cases, or a PIN number. But of course, it's already kind of, they're through one layer of security. Your onion scenario, they've got through one layer. They can start peeling back that skin of the onion and exposing and getting further and further through. But the fact they logged into his Apple account is quite genius. They logged in, changed it all to stop him even accessing his own devices, enabling things like Find My Device, Find My Phone.
Yeah, they turned that off straight away. Yeah,
turn it off. So the cost of the phone in some cases is not the problem, because thieves are not stealing the devices for the phone, because they're very hard to pass off a stolen phone. But obviously, if they got into the Apple device, they can then wipe it, erase it, and then it can go onto the black market. But it's the data that's contained on here. So, question, Francis, what can people do? What are some of the, and I know you've got a webinar coming up about this, and some people will be watching this particular interview. They'll miss your webinar, but you do run them every month anyway, so that you'd run these, but people can also watch them on your catch-up channel as well.
Oh, they can, yeah. So we do this every first Thursday of the month between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. GMT UK time. And if you go on LinkedIn and you look up Security Everywhere, you'll find our page. But you'll see all the previous events. We've done 3 already, so that'll be the 4th one next Thursday in July. But so what can people do? Number one, you're right. Great. Go and listen back to the session, because you'll hear some amazing nuggets you can use and remember, please pass the information on. But for me, number one is, there's a load. Let me give you some quick rundown, because I know we wanted to keep this short. Number one, set your timeout on your phone to 30 seconds. I know it's annoying, believe me, but if somebody took your phone off you, they've got 30 seconds to do, or keep it alive. And at the moment, it doesn't take long for 30 seconds to pass, and then it'll lock the phone. So that's number one. Number two, set up a SIM pin. Do you know, David, I've spoken to about 1,000 people in the last month. I reckon 5 people out of 1,000 people had their SIM pin turned on. Now, why is this so important? Because the moment you turn on your SIM pin, let me rewind a bit. Another quick way of me hacking your phone is simply to take out, if I can get your phone, even if you've got face recognition turned on, all that stuff I can bypass by simply removing your SIM, putting it in my phone, and now I've got full access to your SIM with your phone, which means I can reset. I dealt a case with NatWest the other day. Now, the way you do this, so if you go into settings and you just search for SIM pin, it's normally under mobile data. It'll ask you for 4 digits. Now, the 4 digits is the default SIM first. Very important to do this correctly, otherwise you will brick your own phone. So if you're with EE, for instance, this number is 1111. Now you've turned it on. Now you go back into it and you say change pin. First thing it does, it says, okay, what's your default, which is 1111, and then you put in your own unique 4-character or 4-digit pins twice. And then you save it. The moment you've saved it, that's it. You've just protected your SIM, which is the easiest thing you can do to have the biggest impact on your mobile security.
Yeah. And just to kind of really kind of add to that, you're right. They take the SIM out, they put it into another device, then it allows them to obtain your number, i.e. they can make outbound calls, receive incoming calls. But the point is that most of our accounts are using MFA, multi-factor authentication.
Yeah.
And then lots of accounts use your mobile number to send that typically 6-digit number to. Because if they've got it on another phone, they don't need to unlock it, up it comes. So they're trying to hack into one of your banking accounts. And if you're silly enough that you've had your password in a note, they've got the password for your bank, but they still got to get that MFA response, i.e. that 6-digit number, ping, it comes through on the phone. Yeah. They pop it in, they've got access to your bank. And once they're in there, well, all hell breaks loose. So that's the really important point about locking the SIM down. They can take it out and they can act as you very quickly.
Yeah. So that's why even if people try to clone your phone, or if they phone, that's another, like we said, it'll stop them from doing it until they know the PIN. Because and here's the thing, when will you be asked for the SIM PIN? If you run out of battery and it reboots, it'll be asking you for that PIN. If you do a software update, which I recommend you always do, it'll ask you for the SIM. Or if you remove the SIM, put another phone, it'll ask you SIM. Or if you try to transfer it to another provider, it'll ask you for the SIM. So that's why this stuff is so good. And you know what gets to me, David? I would like to somehow get EE and Vodafone and all the providers to do this by default for every one of their customers. That's how we're going to fix this problem. Because overnight, it'll drop the risk by 99+%.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a great tip that everyone should start thinking about now and doing immediately. And as you said, Francis, sharing with at least another 10 people so they do it and get them to share it as well. Any other tips that you can roll into this particular scenario which could have helped and protected this individual and, of course, other individuals in the future?
You know, you mentioned earlier about identity. Now, identity theft is will last forever and make your life a misery. And the only time you'll find out next time you apply for a mortgage or credit card. Experian, not that they're all there's a lot of good companies out there, but Experian has a service called Experian Identity Plus. Now, it's a nominal fee per month, but once you already do your credit score and all that stuff. But the moment you've got a little slider, if you pay for it and you turn it on, anybody, if they try to steal your phone and whatever, and they try to create an account in your name or a bank account or credit card, they will fail because you've got the slider turned on. And all you need to do when you apply for a card yourself, you turn the slider off, get your card, turn it back on. And I just think this is a brilliant service because nobody can then, everybody fraudulently will be stopped from using your name to set up bank accounts.
Yeah, great top tip there with Experian. I use Experian and I do have that lock on as the key lock. You just slide it across, and if you want to apply for credit or set up an account, you just unlock it, and then the provider, what it is you're buying, can go in there and they can do their credit check and you lock it afterwards. Downside is, of course, the other credit referencing agencies, Equifax, is it Credit Call, I think, or something like that, don't offer that yet, but hopefully they will. Hopefully they will. They will take on board. Okay, so
just one other thing, David. I just think coming back to the Apple ID is, I think for me there has been big learning in the last week, and that's how almost impossible it is for people to get their Apple ID back. Now, if you go, I don't know if you know this. One last thing I want to share with you. If you go into your iPhone and you go to settings, and right at the top, you've got your name. If you click on your name, the second item down is password and security. If you go to password and security, you now have the ability to set up a not only a two-factor authentication, but you now have ability to set up an account recovery email. Mm-hmm. So which means you can set up your wife or somebody else. So if this happens, you can get it back very quickly. The second other point is if you go into your area where you create your fallback recovery section. So maybe you've got an email address, which is good, but then set up at least 2 other phone numbers for argument's sake. Not that we said we don't like text messages, but the more the better. Because believe me, the pain that you're going to feel when your account is locked out with Apple is just not worth thinking about. So go and do these things, and I promise you, your life will be much nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all these little things that add up to add these layers of that onion. Little things are going to make your life a lot easier. The downside to all these little things, I say make your life easier. It puts little steps in that every time you want to do something, you have to jump through that hoop. But that to me is a little bit of pain for that added security and knowing that you are protected as best as you possibly can be.
Why not? Why not? And this is why I'm joking a little bit, David, but I would like to develop a tablet that people can taste the pain of being hacked or scammed before it happens, just so that they realize that pain is just not worth the little bits of pain every day for them to have this extra step to log into their systems.
Yeah, that's the red and the blue pill, I think, for those that know the Matrix, the red pill, the blue pill. Francis, we are running out of time. It's been great having this chat with you. I mean, there's lots of things here we could discuss, things like security keys, which we had a discussion about, YubiKey. There's lots of different things that you can do to add protection to your systems. And that's not just your mobile device, but that could be your email system, your office-based systems, any of those technical systems, because a lot of fraud comes through cyber. Not all, but a lot of it does. It accounts for a massive part of how people lose their identity and how they do get hacked and how they lose money and their business is infiltrated. We said earlier that you're running these LinkedIn Live sessions once a month. Do look up Francis and find out more about security everywhere. Watch those videos because they are great. And Francis, thank you very much for joining me here in the virtual studio and talking through that scenario and sharing some of the tips to protect people in the future as well.
Absolute pleasure, David. And thank you for making the time to do this. I know you do so much for the Eastern Fraud Forum, and especially I love the design of the website and the events we're going to put on at the university, which we haven't mentioned yet. But I just want to personally say thank you for the massive work you put in to make this a success.
Thank you very much, Francis. I do it for the good of everybody else. And if you want to look at the website, by the way, that Francis mentioned, have a look. It's easternfraudforum.com. All the information there. And, of course, you'll find this and more videos as well. Anyway, it's goodbye from me.
Bye-bye. Take care. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Be very safe.